You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bingham. Hope you've had a great week. Obviously, I did not do a podcast on Monday, but I'm back here on Thursday. Went to Cancun for a few days, just had a little fun with some friends. It was awesome. Hope you guys had a great weekend and then week. A lot of football happened. I'm going to talk a little bit more about basketball today, but before I do, I'm going to do my standard and usual request of you to please subscribe. And I know I say it a lot, and for those of you that are listening that are not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, whatever platform you are on. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. Thank you for being here. We're talking Ben Simmons today, first and foremost. This guy is the diva of divas. I cannot tell you how right I have been about him. You can go look at the history of my podcast over the last year. I've talked repeatedly about Ben Simmons being extremely overrated, being a diva, being a problem, being a liability, not improving ever. And now look what he's doing to Philadelphia, tearing the franchise, trying to tear the franchise apart, bring it down with him. It's just embarrassing. His trade stock is dropping like a rock, which sucks for the Sixers because they need to move him. And I mean, if you're a GM out there, do you really want Ben Simmons right now? Honestly and sincerely, if you're a GM in the NBA right now, do you want Ben Simmons? I don't. And another guy who I have a love-hate relationship with Pop. Obviously, I don't know him. He doesn't know me. But just as a fan and as a podcaster who watches him a lot, he's a guy that's just so smug and arrogant sometimes. And he was that way about Ben Simmons. He's like, oh, it's so freaking elite. It doesn't matter that he can shoot or not. Yeah, it does matter that he can't shoot. That's called basketball. And you know that, Pop. You're just trying to be difficult to the reporters like you always are, which is super lame and annoying of you. Because they're the ones that help make you rich. Without fans, without the media, without eyeballs, without the ability for fans to view your content on the news, on the internet, on TV, you don't get rich, so you kind of work for them. So just knock it off, Pop. But anyway, he was like that with regards to Ben Simmons, and I remember thinking like Pop's just being that version of Pop. He could also be super loving, funny, kind. We've seen both sides of Pop. Too frequently though, you see kind of the douchey side, just to put it bluntly. And he was like that with Ben Simmons. I remember thinking like, nah, I wouldn't want Ben Simmons. I just don't think that he's what he's cracked up to be. I think that he has not improved at all since his rookie season, which was a fake rookie season, as I mentioned. And this came out on Instagram the other day. I saw this. This is incredible. I'm going to try and put it on the screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube. I'm going to read it here now, though. This is a pre-draft report on Ben Simmons. Okay, so this is now March of 2016. So this is 5.5 years ago. This is what Jonathan Givony, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Jonathan Givony, this was his analysis of Ben Simmons heading into the 2016 NBA draft. You ready for this? Synopsis of Ben Simmons. Simmons' lack of competitiveness in crucial games has raised questions about his character. Those who know him best say he needs things to revolve around him on and off the court, and that he's often been closed-minded to coaching or instruction. Was this guy looking into a crystal ball? This is 5.5 years ago, folks. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a horoscope almost? What is going on here? Simmons' I'm going to read it again. Simmons' lack of competitiveness in crucial games has raised questions about his character. Those who know him best say he needs things to revolve around him on and off the court, and that he's often been closed-minded to coaching or instruction. I mean, come on. This is the most spot-on. Whoever this Jonathan Givony guy is, he needs a raise from whatever team he's on. Teams should be clamoring for this guy's services, okay? This guy should be able to get with any team he wants and work for any team he wants. I mean, this is the most spot on analysis ever. His lack of competitive and crucial games has raised questions about his character. I mean, we've seen that. We saw the pass off in the playoffs. We also saw him pout and cry right after the game. I want to trade. I'm sad. Joel Embiid hurt my feelings. Doc Rivers hurt my feelings. I'm sad. I want to trade. Okay, he needs things to revolve around him on and off the court. Come on. That's as clear as day with Ben Simmons. And he's closed-minded to coaching or instruction. Hasn't improved his jump shot, wouldn't participate in defensive drills, got kicked out of practice recently, demanding a trade. I'm telling you, this is spot on. The pride comes before the fall, Ben Simmons. I commented that on some Instagram posts about him just the other day. Pride comes before the fall, and your pride is killing you, my man, killing you. I had several when I was first doing this back, 6 months ago or whatever. Basically talking the truth about Ben Simmons, about how he's a diva and how he's overrated. I had a lot of Philadelphia fans commenting on my YouTube, hitting me up on Twitter, saying I was crazy, that I was just a hater, blah, blah, blah. Guess how many of them do that now? 0. Okay? 0. And if you are in Philadelphia and you think I'm just being a hater and you think you want Ben Simmons, then you haven't been paying attention and you don't know basketball. This guy is a bigger liability than he is an asset. If I'm a GM in the NBA today, I don't want him. Why would you trade for this guy? What happens when you hurt his feelings? He's a softie. He's sensitive. I wouldn't want him. So be very interesting to see what's going to happen with Ben Simmons. There's talk that he's going to go, to Portland, potentially even giving the Sixers Damian Lillard. And, obviously the Sixers would have to give up more than Ben Simmons, a couple first-round draft picks and another guy. I don't see Portland going for that. I wouldn't. Why would you do that? Why? There's talk of him going to Portland, but in exchange for CJ McCollum and some other assets. Excuse me. That one seems more realistic. But again, why? I don't know why. Can Ben Simmons hoop? Of course. The guy really is an elite basketball player. He's not an elite shooter. He's actually a piss poor shooter. And the blueprint is out now on how to deal with that. I'm sure he has the ability to improve his shot, but his closed-mindedness to coaching or instruction keeps him from being able to accomplish that. So to me, he's a liability. And just looking at his stats here, just to reiterate what I mentioned months ago, for those that may have missed that podcast, Ben Simmons really has just been the same player year after year. So I've got his stats pulled up here. His rookie season, he averaged 15.8 points per game. Last season, he averaged 14.3. His best season, which was his second season, he averaged 16.9. So he's averaged the same number of points essentially from start to finish, four straight seasons. Rebounds, 8.1 his rookie season, 7.2 last season. So from his rookie season to last season, he's worse in points per game, worse in rebounds per game. Assists per game, his rookie season, 8.2. Last season, 6.9. So he's worse in assists last season than he was his rookie season. Steals, his rookie season, 1.7. Last year, 1.6. Blocks, 0.9 his rookie season, 0.6 last season. You see where I'm going with this? He's worse in every statistical category from his rookie season to now. He's had 2 seasons between those. He's played 4 complete seasons now. Field goal percentage. 3-point field goal percentage is essentially just 0. He doesn't shoot them, doesn't make them. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and he misses all of those because he doesn't dare take them. His 2-point field goal percentage, I'll just do overall because he does take a handful of threes. His overall field goal percentage, his rookie year was 54.5%. Last year, 55.7%. So a very slight improvement there. Minutes per game, same, 33, 34, 35, 32, basically the same throughout. And then free throw percentage, 56% his rookie season, 61% last year. So a very slight improvement there as well. So very slight improvements, almost not noticeable improvements. and then slightly worse across the board on the major statistical categories. Points, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, all 5 of them lower this last season than they were his rookie season. So get out of here with Ben Simmons as this elite guy that's just always improving. He's the centerpiece of your championship team. That's not even close to true. It's not even close to true. He's not the centerpiece of a championship team at all. I wouldn't want him on my team. I wouldn't. There's other guys out there that are better than him. They're better fit. And look, and that's just not even mentioning the intangibles of what he's doing to a locker room. He is a cancer. He's a bad apple. You put this rotten apple at the bottom of a barrel and it just slowly rots all the other apples around it. Everybody knows that analogy. That is what Ben Simmons type of players will do to your team. Get him out of your locker room. Get him off your team. Kyrie Irving's very similar. We could talk about him a little bit. Now, with Kyrie right now, this is more of a personal choice where he just does not want to get vaccinated, does not want to deal with the mandates. And it's just unfortunate for him that he plays for the Brooklyn Nets. You know, there's only 2 teams that it was going to be a huge issue with, and he plays on one of them. I don't fault him for that. I don't want to get into anything political on this podcast. This is a sports podcast, but I don't fault Kyrie for doing that. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, what he's going to do. Is he really going to give up all this money? But outside of that particular decision, Kyrie has had a tendency to be a little bit of a cancer as well. He did that a little bit with the Cavs, demanded a trade. Did it with the Celtics, demanded a trade. Hasn't really done much with the Nets. Has taken unwarranted and unexplained, inexplicable leaves of absence. Just a lot of PTO for Kyrie. So, but Ben Simmons, I wouldn't want him. I really, truly wouldn't. So, anyway, that's my take on that. Okay, one more thing I had to talk about NBA-wise, because NBA is underway. The first couple games happened, and the Lakers with Russell Westbrook get beat pretty bad by the Warriors, and the Warriors didn't have Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry didn't play well. He was like 5 of 21 or something like that. So it's like, Lakers, what? Yeah, and they got like 65 points or something between LeBron and AD. So that was very surprising. Russ hasn't been a fit there. They're 0-7 if you include their 6 preseason games. Russ does not look like a fit. I'm sure it will come with time. I still put the Lakers as the favorite in the West. There's just too much talent there for them to not figure it out. But we'll see. We'll see. That's something to keep an eye on. Jazz, of course, get off to a 1-0 start. So it's been the Bucks beat the Nets. Speaking of which, they get their rings. It's their championship night. They unveil the banner, get their rings, celebrate their their world championship, and then they proceed to beat the Nets pretty handily. No Kyrie Irving. Durant played well. Harden played okay. And again, I still think the Nets are the favorite out of the East. So night 1. Opening night, you see the Lakers and the Nets go down, and I'm here to say they're still both the favorites in their respective conferences. They just are. I had a good friend ask me yesterday what the Jazz chances are of making it to the finals or winning the finals. And he said, is it higher or lower than 10%? And I had to be honest, I said it's lower, but not by much. Vegas currently has the Jazz as the 6th team, the 6th favorite to win the NBA championship. In fact, I'm going to pull that up right now and see. But it had the Nets as number 1, Lakers as number 2, and then I think it was the Bucks at 3, and then also ahead of the Jazz were the Warriors at 4 and the Suns at 5, and then the Jazz were at 6. So 2 Eastern Conference teams, 4 Western Conference teams. Very interesting, and I'm going to pull it up just to see if it's different today or different on that particular NBA Finals future. Here we go. Yeah, Nets, Lakers, Bucks, Warriors. Oh, the Jazz. So the Jazz did flip. They're right there dead even with the Suns, and they did in the last 24 hours. Vegas has flipped the Suns and the Jazz to give the Jazz a slightly better chance last night. Jazz played really well, looked really good. That makes sense. DeAndre Ayton, maybe a little agitated in Phoenix, not getting his rookie contract max extension. So Jazz currently 5th. Also on here, this is interesting. I like this kind of stuff. You can bet on who the MVP is going to be, and here are the favorites. Luka Doncic is the favorite. Giannis is 2nd. Durant 3rd. Embiid 4th. Curry 5th. Lillard 6th. Jokic 7th. LeBron 8th. Then Trae Young, James Harden, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Donovan Mitchell. So those are like your top, what did I read off there? 13? I think that's the top 13. So just to make it more of a normal number, Paul George and John Morant are the top 15. And that's, that's your thing. Zion Williamson was 16th, by the way. I couldn't help but see that. Zion Williamson, everyone's talking about how he's 300 pounds plus, dealing with an injury. I gotta say, I'm a little bit nervous for Zion Williamson. I don't know if he's going to last in this league. If you weigh 300 pounds and you can't stay in shape and you can't keep the fat off, that's dangerous. Those are the people that get hurt easily, especially with how much they're jumping around, moving around, bodying people up. It's just a physical sport. And it just wreaks havoc on your joints. And if you weigh 300 pounds, that's a lot more work those joints got to do. So Zion's got to figure it out. He's got to get down to like 275, 280 if he's going to want to last in this league. That's what LeBron's done. LeBron's trimmed down. It seems like consistently he trims down just a little bit more. And he's in year 19 now. Insane. Okay, speaking of LeBron, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. I'm going to save more NFL stuff for next week. But Shaquille O'Neal, I don't know if he was paid to do this. I mean, he is paid to talk about sports with TNT. But he got interviewed by the LA Times, and he goes out in public, to the public through the newspaper, and says that as soon as LeBron passes Kareem as the all-time leading scorer, he will be the GOAT. There's nothing you can talk about. Can't take nothing away from him. Can't take nothing away from that. He's got 4 rings and all-time leading scorer. Can't take nothing. What are you freaking talking about, Shaq? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is currently the all-time leading scorer and has 6 championships, has 6 MVPs. Why is he not the GOAT then? More league MVPs, more titles, current all-time leading scorer. But you're not talking about him being the GOAT because he's not, because Michael Jordan is. So why would that simple fact of him becoming the all-time leading scorer, LeBron that is, why would that somehow elevate him over Jordan when he has fewer MVPs, fewer rings, fewer finals MVPs, lower points per game average, which to me is the more impressive stat. Longevity is to be noted. Longevity is to be appreciated and rewarded even in for your overall resume, I guess, the legend that you leave behind. But points per game, your averages, to me, that's a better indicator, especially when a career has been long enough. It's not like Jordan played like 2 seasons and was the all-time leading scorer in points per game. The guy played 15 seasons, 2 of which he was 39 and 40 for, and still the all-time leading scorer in points per game. Probably never to be broken, even though the league continues to have more and more points scored than they did in Jordan's era. Jordan's era, especially in the late 90s, that portion of his career, games were regularly ending in the 80s and 90s. You never see that now. It's 120 plus. So he was scoring like 40% of his team's points. That is significant. In fact, I would love to see a breakdown of percentage of teams' points scored per game. That would be interesting. And then your record in those. And you would see Jordan shooting through the roof. Jordan is number 1 in PER for a reason. He's the greatest there ever was. So it was a nice thing. Shaq, a mission accomplished for you in the LA Times. You said something totally stupid. The LA Times went up to Shaq. They're like, hey, your mission, should you choose to accept it, say something super stupid so that people have to pay attention to us. And mission accomplished. It worked. Here we are talking about it. We're paying attention. So mission accomplished there. Jordan is the GOAT. Everybody knows he's the GOAT. And like I always say, I don't want to even get into this because it's so obvious. It's like the Android people trying to claim their phone's better than the iPhone. And all of us iPhone users are just like, oh, dude. You don't even believe yourself what you're saying right now. So this is just a moot point. This is a stupid argument. I'm not going to have it. When somebody passes Michael Jordan, which it might happen. When it happens, though, we're just going to know because it's going to be that obvious. It's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. Just like it is with Michael Jordan. We know when we saw it, it was him. He was it. He was the greatest we ever saw. And we haven't had somebody surpass him yet. I don't see it happening anytime soon. There certainly isn't anybody currently playing that's going to do it. And that includes LeBron James. That's all the time I have for today. Please hit that subscribe button. You guys are awesome. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out STB Sports Take STBSportsTake.com. Simply the best in sports.